In this video, we'll cover everything within the organization topic, from how cells are organized into tissues, organs, and systems, to how the human body transports and digests nutrients, and how plants are structured to support growth and survival. In this episode, we'll start by understanding the hierarchy of organization from cells to organisms, then explore the different types of tissues found in the body, examine how tissues combine to form organs, and finally see how organs work together in systems to keep organisms functioning. All living organisms are made up of cells, which are the basic units of life. But in complex multicellular organisms like humans, cells don't just exist independently, they're organized into increasingly complex structures. Let's start with the cell. Cells are the basic building blocks of all living organisms. Different cells have different structures that allow them to perform specialized functions. These specialized cells are created through a process called differentiation. This is when cells develop specific features to perform particular tasks. When similar cells work together, they form tissues. A tissue is a group of similar cells that perform a specific function together. In mammals like humans, we have several types of tissues. Muscular tissue is made of cells that can contract, allowing movement. Glandular tissue produces and secretes important substances like hormones and enzymes. And epithelial tissue forms coverings and linings throughout the body. Moving up to the next level of organization, different tissues combine to form organs. An organ is a structure made of multiple tissue types working together to perform specific functions. Take the stomach as an example. It contains muscular tissue that moves food around, glandular tissue that produces digestive enzymes, and epithelial tissue that forms protective linings. At the highest level of organization, organs work together in organ systems. Each organ system performs a particular function necessary for survival. For instance, the digestive system is made up of organs like the stomach, intestines, liver, and pancreas. Each performs a specific role, but together they accomplish the overall function of processing food and absorbing nutrients. The digestive system includes glands like the pancreas and salivary glands that produce digestive enzymes. While the main function of the stomach and small intestine is to break down and digest food, and the liver produces bile to help with fat digestion. And finally, the large intestine absorbs water from undigested food, leaving behind the final waste products. All our organ systems, such as digestive, respiratory, circulatory, and others, work together to form a complete functioning organism. This organization from cells to organism allows for specialization and efficiency. Each level performs specific tasks while contributing to the overall functioning of the body. In this lesson, we'll begin by looking at what enzymes are and why living organisms need them, then examine their structure and how they catalyze specific reactions, learn about the different digestive enzymes and where they're produced, and finally, follow food through the digestive system to see how enzymes break it down into usable molecules. Chemical reactions are essential for life. They build the molecules your body needs, break down food for energy, and allow your cells to communicate. But these reactions would be far too slow without help. This is where enzymes come in. Enzymes are biological catalysts produced by living organisms. A catalyst is a substance that speeds up a chemical reaction without being changed or used up itself. Living things have thousands of different chemical reactions happening simultaneously inside them. All these reactions need to be carefully controlled. One way to speed up reactions is by raising the temperature, but this approach has major limitations for living organisms. High temperatures would accelerate all reactions indiscriminately, including harmful ones. So instead, living organisms produce enzymes, specialized proteins that can speed up specific reactions at body temperature. This allows for precise control of which reactions happen and when. Enzymes are large protein molecules made up of chains of amino acids. These chains fold into specific three-dimensional shapes that are crucial for enzyme function. The most important feature of an enzyme is its active site, a special region where the chemical reaction takes place. The active site has a unique shape that allows it to bind to a specific substrate molecule, the substance the enzyme acts upon. Enzymes are highly specific. Each enzyme typically catalyzes just one type of reaction. This specificity comes from the precise shape of the active site, which only allows certain molecules to fit, similar to how a key fits into a lock. This lock and key model helps explain enzyme specificity, though the actual mechanism is slightly more sophisticated. When a substrate enters the active site, the enzyme adjusts its shape slightly to create an even better fit, a process called induced fit. Temperature and pH greatly affect how well enzymes work. Each enzyme has an optimal temperature and pH range where it functions most effectively. As temperature increases, enzyme activity initially increases because molecules move faster, creating more opportunities for enzymes and substrates to collide. However, if the temperature gets too high, the heat damages the bonds that maintain the enzyme's three-dimensional structure. This changes the shape of the active site, and the enzyme can no longer function properly. We say the enzyme has been denatured. Similarly, pH affects enzyme structure and function. Extreme pH levels can change the shape of an enzyme's active site by altering the chemical bonds that maintain its structure. Each enzyme has an optimal pH where it works best. For example, digestive enzymes in the stomach function best in highly acidic conditions, while enzymes in the small intestine prefer alkaline environments. Now let's see how enzymes are put to work in the digestive system, breaking down the food you eat into nutrients your body can use. The food you eat contains nutrients essential for life, but most of these nutrients are locked in large, complex molecules that your body can't directly use. These molecules must be broken down into smaller components that can be absorbed into your bloodstream with the help of digestive enzymes. There are three main types of digestive enzymes, each targeting a specific type of nutrient. Carbohydrates break down carbohydrates like starch into simple sugars such as glucose and maltose. Amylase is the main carbohydrate in your digestive system. It's produced in three different places: the salivary glands in your mouth, the pancreas, and the small intestine. Proteases break down proteins into amino acids. The stomach produces a protease called pepsin. Additional proteases are made by the pancreas and the small intestine. Lipases break down fats, also called lipids, into fatty acids and glycerol. These enzymes are primarily produced by the pancreas and the small intestine. Once these large molecules are broken down into their smaller components, sugars, amino acids, fatty acids, and glycerol, they can easily pass through the walls of your digestive system into the bloodstream. From there, they're transported to cells throughout your body where they can be used for energy or to build new tissues. While not an enzyme itself, bile plays a crucial role in the digestive process. Bile is produced by the liver and stored in the gallbladder until needed. It serves two important functions. First, food leaving the stomach is highly acidic due to stomach acid, but enzymes in the small intestine work best in alkaline conditions. Bile helps neutralize this acid, creating the optimal environment for these enzymes to function. Second, bile helps emulsify fats, breaking large fat droplets into tiny ones, similar to how dish soap breaks up grease. This significantly increases the surface area of fat exposed to lipase enzymes, dramatically accelerating fat digestion. The digestive system demonstrates the incredible efficiency of enzyme catalyzed reactions. Without these specialized proteins, we couldn't extract the nutrients we need from food. In our next episode, we'll explore another vital system, the respiratory system, and how it provides the oxygen needed for cellular respiration. In this episode, we will focus on the lungs and the heart, two vital organs that ensure oxygen reaches every cell in your body. First, we'll examine the structure of the lungs and how they enable gas exchange. Next, we'll explore the path of air through the respiratory system. Then, we'll take a look at the heart and its role in the circulatory system. And finally, we'll examine how the heart pumps blood through the double circulation system. Your cells need a constant supply of oxygen to carry out respiration, the process that releases energy from food molecules. At the same time, they need to eliminate carbon dioxide, a waste product of respiration. The respiratory system is specialized to take in oxygen and remove carbon dioxide, while the circulatory system transports these gases throughout the body. Let's start by understanding the structure of the respiratory system. This system uses lungs, which are located in the thorax, which is in the upper part of your body. They're protected by the ribcage and separated from the lower body by the diaphragm. The lungs themselves are soft, spongy organs that appear pink and are surrounded by a protective membrane called the pleural membrane. When you breathe in, air enters your body through your nose or mouth and travels down the trachea. The trachea then splits into two tubes called bronchi, one leading to each lung. Inside the lungs, the bronchi continue to branch into progressively smaller tubes called bronchioles, similar to how a tree branches into smaller and smaller limbs. These bronchioles eventually end at tiny air sacs called alveoli. Alveoli are where the actual gas exchange takes place. The lungs contain millions of these microscopic air sacs, each surrounded by a network of tiny blood vessels called capillaries. The walls of both the alveoli and capillaries are extremely thin, just one cell thick. This allows gases to diffuse quickly between the air in the alveoli and the blood in the capillaries. When blood arrives at the lungs, it's returning from the body's tissues where it has picked up carbon dioxide and released oxygen. This blood is low in oxygen and high in carbon dioxide. Inside the alveoli, the oxygen concentration is high because of the air you've just breathed in, while carbon dioxide concentration is low. Following the principle of diffusion, gases move from areas of high concentration to areas of low concentration. So oxygen diffuses from the air in the alveoli into the bloodstream, while carbon dioxide diffuses from the blood into the alveoli to be exhaled. The oxygen that enters the bloodstream binds to the hemoglobin molecules inside red blood cells. Hemoglobin is a protein which gives blood its red color and is specialized for oxygen transport. But getting oxygen into the blood is only half the story. The circulatory system needs to transport this oxygen to all the cells in the body, and at the center of the system is the heart. The circulatory system is the body's transport network. It delivers essential oxygen and nutrients to every cell in your body and removes waste products like carbon dioxide. Think of it as a delivery system and a waste collection system. This system consists of three main components: the heart, which acts as a pump, the blood vessels, which form the network of tubes through which the blood travels, and the blood itself, which carries the materials throughout the body. Humans have what's called a double circulatory system. This means we have two separate circuits of blood flow, both connected to the heart. The first circuit is called pulmonary circulation. In this circuit, deoxygenated blood is pumped from the right side of the heart to the lungs. In the lungs, this blood picks up oxygen and releases carbon dioxide through the alveoli, as we just discussed. The newly oxygenated blood then returns to the left side of the heart. The second circuit is called systemic circulation. The oxygenated blood is pumped from the left side of the heart to all the other organs and tissues of the body. The blood delivers oxygen and nutrients to these tissues and picks up carbon dioxide and other waste products. The deoxygenated blood then returns to the right side of the heart, completing the cycle. At the center of the system is the heart, a remarkable organ about the size of your fist. The heart is essentially a muscular pump that keeps blood moving through the blood vessels. The walls of the heart contract rhythmically on their own without conscious control. This allows your heart to beat continuously throughout your life. The heart has four chambers: two upper chambers called atria, and two lower chambers called ventricles. The right atrium and right ventricle form the right side of the heart, which pumps deoxygenated blood to the lungs. The left atrium and left ventricle form the left side, which pumps oxygenated blood to the rest of the body. Between these chambers are special one-way valves that ensure blood flows in only one direction, preventing any backflow. Here's how blood flows through the heart. First, deoxygenated blood enters the right atrium through a vein called the vena cava. The right atrium contracts, pushing this blood into the right ventricle. When the right ventricle contracts, it forces blood into the pulmonary artery, which carries it to the lungs. After picking up oxygen in the lungs, the blood returns to the heart through the pulmonary veins, entering the left atrium. The left atrium contracts, pushing blood into the left ventricle. Finally, the powerful left ventricle contracts, forcing blood into the aorta, the largest artery in the body, which distributes it to all the other organs and tissues. Interestingly, the heart itself needs its own blood supply. Coronary arteries branch off the aorta and wrap around the heart, delivering oxygen and nutrients at the heart muscles, also known as cardiac muscles, need to function. The rhythmic beating of the heart is controlled by a natural pacemaker, a specialized group of cells located in the wall of the right atrium. These cells generate electrical impulses that spread through the heart muscle, causing it to contract in a coordinated manner. If this natural pacemaker malfunctions, an artificial pacemaker may be implanted. This small electronic device generates electrical impulses to regulate heartbeat. The respiratory and circulatory systems work together to ensure that oxygen reaches every cell in your body and that carbon dioxide is efficiently removed. This partnership is essential for life. Without it, cells would quickly run out of oxygen and energy, and toxic waste products would build up. In our next episode, we'll continue exploring the circulatory system by looking at the different types of blood vessels and the components of blood. In this lesson, we'll begin by exploring the three types of blood vessels and their specialized structures, then examine how these vessels work together to form a complete circuit, look at the components of blood and their specific functions, and finally see how blood transports substances and defends the body against disease. Blood vessels form an extensive network that reaches every cell in your body. This network contains three types of vessels, each with a specialized structure suited to its function. The three types of blood vessels are arteries, capillaries, and veins. Each has unique characteristics that allow it to perform its specific role in the circulatory system. Arteries carry blood away from the heart under high pressure. The heart's powerful contractions create this pressure, forcing blood to move quickly through the arterial system. Because arteries must withstand this high pressure, they have thick, strong, and elastic walls. These walls contain multiple layers, including a thick layer of smooth muscle and elastic fibers. The central channel through which blood flows, called the lumen, is relatively small compared to the thickness of the arterial wall. This helps maintain the high pressure needed to push blood throughout the body. As arteries move further from the heart, they branch into progressively smaller vessels. Capillaries are the smallest blood vessels in the body. so small they can only be seen under a microscope. Despite their tiny size, capillaries are perhaps the most important part of the circulatory system. They're where the actual exchange of substances between blood and tissues occurs. Several features make capillaries perfectly adapted for this exchange function. First, they're extremely numerous and form extensive networks that reach every cell in the body. Second, capillary walls are incredibly thin, usually just one cell thick. This minimizes the distance substances must diffuse to travel between the blood and surrounding tissues. Third, these thin walls are permeable, allowing small molecules like oxygen, carbon dioxide, nutrients, and waste products to pass through easily. After passing through capillaries, blood flows into veins, which return it to the heart. By the time blood reaches the veins, it's under much lower pressure than in arteries. This presents a challenge: how to keep blood flowing back to the heart against gravity, especially from the lower parts of the body. Veins have several adaptations to overcome this challenge. First, they have a larger lumen or internal space than arteries of comparable size. This larger channel offers less resistance to blood flow, helping blood move despite the lower pressure. Second, many veins, especially those in the limbs, contain valves. These one-way valves prevent blood from flowing backward due to gravity. Third, vein walls are thinner than artery walls since they don't need to withstand high pressure. However, they still contain some muscle and elastic tissue to maintain their shape and assist with blood flow. Flowing through this complex network of vessels is blood, a specialized tissue that transports vital substances throughout the body. Blood is classified as a tissue even though it's fluid, and it makes up about 7 to 8% of your body weight. Blood consists of four main components: red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets, and plasma. Each component has specific functions essential for survival. Let's start with red blood cells. These are the most numerous cells in your blood and give blood its red color. The primary function of red blood cells is to transport oxygen from your lungs to all the cells in your body. They also help carry some carbon dioxide back to the lungs. Red blood cells have several adaptations that make them perfect for this job. They have a distinctive biconcave disc shape, like a donut with a thin center instead of a hole. This unique shape provides a large surface area relative to volume, allowing for efficient gas exchange. Unlike most cells in your body, red blood cells have no nucleus. This allows more space for hemoglobin, the iron containing protein that binds to oxygen. In the lungs, oxygen binds to this protein, forming oxyhemoglobin. When the blood reaches body tissues where oxygen concentration is low, the oxygen separates from hemoglobin and diffuses into the cells where it's needed for cellular respiration. The next component is white blood cells. These are your body's defense force against disease and infection. While far less numerous than red blood cells, white blood cells are critical for your immune system. There are several types, each with specific roles in protecting your body. Some white blood cells, called phagocytes, can change their shape to surround and engulf harmful microorganisms in a process called phagocytosis, essentially eating the invaders. Others, called lymphocytes, produce antibodies, specialized proteins that identify and neutralize foreign substances like bacteria and viruses. White blood cells also produce antitoxins that neutralize toxins released by certain bacteria. The third component, platelets, are not complete cells but small cell fragments that don't have a nucleus. Despite their simple structure, platelets serve a vital function. When you cut yourself, platelets help form blood clots to stop bleeding. Without this clotting mechanism, even a small cut could lead to dangerous blood loss. Platelets gather at the site of injury and stick together, forming a plug that helps seal the wound. People with low platelet counts may experience excessive bleeding or bruising, highlighting the importance of these tiny cell fragments. The final component is plasma, the liquid portion of blood. Plasma makes up about 55% of your blood volume and is mostly water. with a pale, straw-like color. Plasma serves as the transport medium for all the other components of blood. It carries red and white blood cells and platelets throughout your body. It also transports a variety of dissolved substances, including glucose, amino acids, carbon dioxide, and hormones. Together, these blood vessels and blood components form an extraordinary transport system. Let's start by going over exactly what we'll cover in this video. We'll begin by understanding what coronary heart disease is and how it develops. Next, we'll look at how stents are used to keep coronary arteries open and restore blood flow. Then we'll explore the role of statins in reducing blood cholesterol levels. We'll also discuss mechanical devices and heart transplants for treating severe heart failure. And finally, we'll examine how damaged heart valves can be replaced using biological or mechanical alternatives, along with blood substitutes in cases of major blood loss. Coronary heart disease is a major health issue that affects many people. It occurs when the coronary arteries, which supply blood to the heart muscle, become narrowed. This narrowing happens because fatty materials build up inside these arteries, forming layers that reduce the flow of blood. When the heart muscle doesn't get enough oxygen from the blood, it can't function properly. As these fatty deposits increase over time, the space inside the arteries gets smaller and smaller. This means less and less blood can flow through to deliver oxygen to the heart muscle. If blood flow becomes severely restricted, a person may experience chest pain. In a worst-case scenario, if an artery becomes completely blocked, part of the heart muscle can die, resulting in a heart attack. One effective treatment for narrowed coronary arteries is the use of stents. Stents are small, tube-shaped devices that are placed inside affected arteries. These clever devices physically hold the blood vessel open, allowing blood to flow through more easily. This ensures the heart muscle receives the oxygen it needs to function properly. Stents offer several advantages for patients. They're relatively non-invasive compared to major heart surgery, and recovery times are typically shorter. Once in place, they provide long-term benefits by keeping the artery open. However, stent procedures do come with some risks. There's a small chance of complications during the procedure itself. After placement, there's a risk of blood clots forming around the stent, causing thrombosis. Another important treatment for coronary heart disease involves medications called statins. These drugs help to reduce the levels of cholesterol in the blood. Cholesterol is a fatty substance that's actually essential for our bodies. We need it to build cell membranes and make certain hormones. However, when we have too much of the wrong type of cholesterol, it can contribute to those fatty deposits in our arteries. Statins work by reducing how much cholesterol our body produces, particularly the harmful type known as LDL cholesterol. By lowering these levels, statins slow down the buildup of fatty deposits in the arteries. For many patients, taking statins regularly can significantly reduce their risk of heart attacks and stroke. These medications may also help to stabilize existing deposits, preventing them from suddenly breaking off and blocking an artery completely. Like all medications, statins can have side effects. Some people experience muscle aches, headaches, or digestive issues. In rare cases, they can cause more serious problems with the liver or muscles. Another con of using statins is that they can take weeks or months to have any noticeable effect, and a patient will need to continue taking them to keep receiving the health benefits. If they stop, the condition will likely continue to worsen. In cases where a heart attack has occurred, more drastic interventions may be necessary. Sometimes the heart becomes so weakened that it can no longer pump blood effectively. For patients with severe heart failure, a heart transplant might be the best option. This involves replacing the damaged heart with a healthy donor heart. While this can be life-saving, finding suitable donor hearts is challenging, and patients may wait months or years. During this waiting period, or for patients who aren't suitable transplant candidates, mechanical heart devices can provide a solution. These devices help the weakened heart pump blood more effectively. Some mechanical devices are designed to support the heart temporarily until a donor heart becomes available. Others may be used as a long-term solution when transplantation isn't possible. The advantage of mechanical devices is they're immediately available and don't trigger immune rejection. However, they require major surgery to implant, and patients often need to take blood-thinning medications to prevent clots from forming. Heart valves are another part of the heart that can be damaged. These valves control the direction of blood flow through the heart, ensuring it moves forward efficiently. When heart valves become damaged or diseased by old age or a heart attack, they may not open fully or they may be unable to fully close. Either way, the heart has to work harder to pump the same amount of blood. Faulty heart valves can be replaced in surgery. Surgeons might use biological valves, which come from human donors or animals. Alternatively, they may use mechanical valves made from durable synthetic materials. Biological valves work very naturally, but typically need replacing after a certain number of years. Mechanical valves last longer, but require patients to take blood thinning medication for life to prevent clots from forming on the valve. In situations involving major surgery or injury, patients may experience significant blood loss. While blood transfusions are the standard treatment, there are times when donated blood isn't available or can't be used. This is where blood substitutes become important. Blood substitutes are artificial substances designed to perform some of the functions of blood, particularly carrying oxygen to tissues. Unlike donated blood, these substitutes don't require blood type matching and have a longer shelf life. Currently available blood substitutes include saline based solutions. These can be used in emergency situations to stabilize patients until proper blood transfusions become available or until their body produces more blood cells to replace the lost blood. Our understanding of heart disease and its treatments has advanced tremendously over recent decades. What was once a death sentence can now often be managed effectively, allowing patients to lead full and active lives. Today, we're learning about what health really means and how it relates to disease, then looking at the difference between communicable and non communicable diseases, exploring how different types of diseases can interact with each other, and finally, seeing how our lifestyle choices can affect our health. So, what is health? Health isn't just about not being ill, it's about feeling good physically and mentally. The World Health Organization defines health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well being. Diseases are a major cause of ill health. A disease is any condition that stops the body from working normally. Diseases can be split into two main types: communicable and non communicable. Communicable diseases can spread from one person to another. They're caused by pathogens, things like bacteria, viruses, fungi, and protists. Examples include flu, measles, and food poisoning. Non communicable diseases can't spread between people, they often develop slowly over time. Examples include asthma, diabetes, and heart disease. These are often linked to your genes, your lifestyle, or your environment. Now, here's something really important to understand: different types of diseases can interact with each other in ways that make your health worse. Let's look at four key ways this can happen. First, if your immune system isn't working properly, a non communicable issue, then you're more likely to catch infectious or communicable diseases. Your immune system is like your body's defense team. If it's weakened, pathogens can invade more easily. For example, someone with HIV has a weakened immune system, making them more vulnerable to infections. Second, some viruses can actually cause cancer. For example, certain types of human papillomaviruses can lead to cervical cancer. This shows how a communicable disease can sometimes lead to a non communicable disease. Third, infections can trigger allergic reactions. For example, If you have asthma and catch a cold, your asthma symptoms might get worse. The infection triggers your immune system, which can cause inflammation in your airways. Fourth, physical illness can affect your mental health. If you're dealing with a serious or long term physical illness, you might develop depression or anxiety. This shows how physical and mental health are connected. It's also worth remembering that health is affected by many other factors besides disease. What you eat, how much stress you have, how active you are, and whether you can see a doctor when you need to, all these things matter too. For example, eating a balanced diet gives your body what it needs to stay healthy. Too much stress can lead to problems like high blood pressure, and seeing a doctor regularly means health problems can be spotted early. Understanding how different aspects of health are connected helps doctors take a more rounded approach to keeping people healthy and treating disease. Today, we're learning about what risk factors are and why they matter, then looking at different types of risk factors that can make us more likely to get certain diseases, seeing how these factors affect people differently depending on where they live, and finally, exploring why this matters for individuals, families, and society. So, what exactly is a risk factor? Simply put, it's something that makes you more likely to develop a particular disease. But here's an important point: having risk factors doesn't mean you'll definitely get a disease, it just increases your chances. Think of it like this: if you don't revise for an exam, you have a higher risk of failing, but some people might still pass without revising. Risk factors come in different types. Some are related to your lifestyle, like what you eat, how much you exercise, or whether you smoke. Others are environmental, like pollution in the air or chemicals you might be exposed to. Some risk factors you can't control, like your age or family history, but many others you can change. What makes non communicable diseases tricky is that they're usually caused by several risk factors working together, not just one thing. Risk factors affect people differently around the world. Let's look at the global, national, and local levels. Globally, in wealthier countries, people tend to have more non communicable diseases like heart disease and diabetes. This is often because people can afford fast food, have more sedentary jobs, and drive rather than walk. In less developed countries, people might have different health problems, though non communicable diseases are increasing there too. At the national level, even within the UK, there are big differences between regions. Some areas have higher rates of smoking or obesity than others, often linked to factors like income levels and education. Government policies on things like cigarette prices and food labeling can make a big difference nationally. Locally, even neighborhoods in the same city can have very different health patterns. Some local areas might have lots of fast food shops, but few parks or sports facilities. Other neighborhoods might have more air pollution if they're near busy roads or factories. These local factors combine to create hotspots, where certain diseases are much more common. Some risk factors directly cause diseases. Smoking is the clearest example. The chemicals in cigarettes directly damage your lungs and blood vessels. When you smoke, tar coats your lungs and toxic chemicals enter your bloodstream, damaging cells throughout your body. Carrying too much body fat can lead to diabetes because it affects how your body responds to insulin. Your cells become less sensitive to insulin, making it harder for your body to control blood sugar levels. Drinking too much alcohol directly harms your liver, which has to work overtime to process the alcohol in your blood. Over time, this can cause liver cells to die and be replaced by scar tissue. During pregnancy, smoking or drinking alcohol can directly harm the developing baby. Scientists find risk factors by looking for patterns in data, but it's important to understand the difference between correlation and causation. Just because two things happen together doesn't mean one causes the other. For example, not exercising and eating lots of fatty foods are linked to heart disease, but these behaviors don't directly damage your heart. They cause high blood pressure and cholesterol, which then damage your arteries. Non communicable diseases have huge impacts on people's lives. Millions die each year from these diseases, and many more have a poorer quality of life. These diseases also cost a lot of money, both for the healthcare system and for families affected by them. Healthcare systems spend billions on treating conditions that could potentially be prevented. Families might need to adapt their homes or reduce working hours to care for someone with a chronic illness. If someone can't work because of illness, their family might struggle financially. When lots of people in a country are ill, it affects the whole economy. Fewer people working means less money being made. Understanding risk factors is super useful because it helps us make better choices for our health. Making small, sustainable changes to our lifestyle can have a big impact on our health, both now and in the future. In this video, we're learning about what cancer actually is and how it develops in the body, then exploring the difference between benign and malignant tumors, examining the various risk factors that can increase someone's chance of developing cancer, and finally seeing how lifestyle choices and genetics can play a role in cancer development. So, what exactly is cancer? Simply put, cancer is caused by uncontrolled cell growth and division. Normally, our cells grow and divide in a controlled way, but sometimes changes occur in the cells that disrupt this control system. When this happens, cells begin to grow and divide too much, forming a lump of cells called a tumor. Not all tumors are cancerous, though. They can be either benign or malignant. Benign tumors stay in one place, usually within a membrane, rather than invading other tissues. They don't normally spread to other parts of the body and aren't usually dangerous. Malignant tumors, however, grow and spread to neighboring healthy tissues. Cancer cells can break off and spread to other parts of the body through the bloodstream. These malignant cells then invade healthy tissues elsewhere and form secondary tumors. This ability to spread makes malignant tumors dangerous and potentially fatal. Various risk factors can increase the chance of developing certain types of cancer. It's important to understand that having risk factors doesn't mean you will definitely get cancer. Scientists have identified lots of lifestyle risk factors linked to different types of cancer. Smoking is perhaps the most well known. It's strongly linked to lung cancer. But research shows smoking can cause other types of cancer too, including mouth, throat, stomach, and cervical cancer. Obesity has been linked to many different cancers, including those of the bowel, liver, and kidney. In fact, obesity is the second biggest preventable cause of cancer after smoking. UV exposure from the sun or sunbeds increases your risk of developing skin cancer. People who live in sunny climates or spend a lot of time outside without protection face higher risks. Using sunscreen regularly and covering up can help reduce this risk. Viral infections with certain viruses have been shown to increase the chances of developing specific cancers. For example, hepatitis B and hepatitis C viruses can increase the risk of liver cancer. Risk factors can also be associated with genetics. Sometimes you can inherit faulty genes that make you more susceptible to cancer. For example, mutations in the BRCA genes have been linked to an increased likelihood of developing breast and ovarian cancer. Regular screening can also help detect cancer early when treatment is most likely to be effective. Join us for our next episode where we will learn about tissue organization in plants. Today we're learning about plant tissues, how they form organs like leaves, roots, and stems, exploring leaf structure in detail, and finally discovering how these structures enable transport and photosynthesis. Similar to how animal bodies have various specialized cells working in coordination, plants contain different types of cells that collaborate to form functional tissues. Plant tissues include several types: epidermal tissue, palisade mesophyll, spongy mesophyll, tissue for transportation such as xylem and phloem, and finally, meristem tissue. The outermost layer of plants is composed of epidermal tissue, which serves as a protective barrier for the tissues beneath. This defensive layer features a waxy coating called the cuticle, which helps minimize water loss and offers protection against potential pathogens. Just beneath the upper surface of leaves lies the palisade mesophyll layer. These densely arranged cells contain numerous chloroplasts, positioning this region as the key location where most photosynthesis takes place. Deeper within the leaf structure is the spongy mesophyll layer. This tissue consists of irregularly shaped cells separated by air pockets. These air spaces facilitate the movement of carbon dioxide and oxygen to and from the cells, supporting the leaf's respiratory functions. Throughout plant structures run two vital transportation tissues, xylem and phloem. Xylem vessels function like pipelines, moving water and dissolved nutrients from the roots upward to the stems and foliage. These cellular structures create hollow channels reinforced with lignin, enabling them to efficiently transport water through the plant's vascular system. Phloem tissue manages the distribution of sugars produced during photosynthesis, transporting them from the leaves to other parts of the plant. This movement of sugar molecules through the phloem network is technically known as translocation. At growth points of shoots and roots, we find meristem tissue. These undifferentiated cells possess the ability to divide and generate new cellular material, facilitating plant growth and development. A remarkable characteristic of meristem tissue is its capacity to develop into any type of plant cell throughout the plant's lifetime. The leaf functions as a specialized plant organ optimized for photosynthesis. Its broad surface captures maximum sunlight, while its thin profile allows efficient gas exchange. The lower epidermis contains tiny openings called stomata, which enable gases to move into and out of the leaf interior. Each stomatal opening is flanked by a pair of specialized guard cells that can modify their shape to regulate the size of the pore. This mechanism controls gas exchange rates and helps limit excessive water loss through transpiration. The evolution of plants has resulted in remarkably efficient systems, from individual specialized cells to complex tissues to functional organs, enabling plants to thrive in diverse environmental conditions. Today we're learning about xylem and phloem transport systems, how transpiration drives water movement through plants, how factors like light, temperature, airflow, and humidity affect transpiration rates, and finally, how guard cells control stomata to regulate gas exchange and water loss. Despite what you might imagine, plants don't have tiny vehicles moving substances around inside them, but they do have fascinating transport systems. Let's start with phloem tubes, which transport food throughout the plant. Phloem consists of arrangements of living cells that have specialized end walls with small openings or pores. These openings allow the contents to move from one cell to another. Phloem's primary function is to move food substances, especially the sugars produced in the leaves, to other parts of the plant. This nutrient transport provides energy for growing areas or gets stored for later use. Interestingly, this movement can occur both upward and downward in the plant, depending on where nutrients are needed. The technical term for this movement of food through phloem is translocation. Now let's examine xylem tubes, which are responsible for water transport. Unlike phloem, xylem is composed of non-living cells connected together without separating walls, creating what's essentially a continuous pipeline. These xylem vessels are reinforced with a substance called lignin that provides strength and rigidity to maintain their structure. Xylem transports water containing dissolved minerals from the roots upward to the stems and leaves. This continuous flow of water from roots to leaves is known as the transpiration stream. So, what exactly is transpiration? In simple terms, it's the process by which plants lose water to the atmosphere. But the process is more complex than it first appears. Transpiration occurs through evaporation and diffusion of water from the plant's surfaces. The majority of water loss happens through the leaves via small openings called stomata. When water evaporates from the leaf cells, it creates a mild water deficit, which pulls more water up from other parts of the plant through the xylem vessels. This in turn draws more water up from the roots, creating a continuous flow of water moving through the entire plant. An interesting point to note is that transpiration isn't actually the plant's goal. It's a consequence of the leaf structure needed for photosynthesis. Plants must have stomata to allow carbon dioxide to enter for photosynthesis. However, the concentration gradient means that water inside the leaf will inevitably escape through these same openings. This water loss is a necessary compromise for the plant to carry out photosynthesis. Now let's investigate the factors that influence how quickly plants lose water. Four main variables affect transpiration rates. Light conditions significantly impact transpiration. More intense light leads to increased water loss. This occurs because stomata tend to close in darkness. Since photosynthesis cannot occur without light, plants don't need to keep their stomata open for carbon dioxide intake in the dark. With closed stomata, minimal water escapes from the plant. Environmental temperature also plays a crucial role. Warmer conditions accelerate transpiration. This happens because heat gives water molecules additional energy to evaporate and move out through the stomata. Air movement around the plant is another important factor. Stronger air currents increase water loss. When air is still around a leaf, evaporated water accumulates near the leaf surface. This creates similar water vapor concentrations inside and outside the leaf, slowing further diffusion. However, when air currents remove this moisture layer, the concentration gradient is maintained, allowing continuous, rapid diffusion from high to low concentration. The fourth factor is atmospheric moisture. Drier surrounding air accelerates transpiration. Scientists can measure transpiration rates by monitoring water uptake by plants. This approach works because the amount of water absorbed by the plant correlates directly with water lost through leaf transpiration. To conduct such measurements, researchers use equipment featuring a plant with roots in water, a narrow tube, and a method to track air bubble movement in the tube. By noting the initial position of the bubble and the distance it travels over time, one can determine the rate of water absorption. For accurate results, it's essential to maintain consistent experimental conditions, particularly regarding temperature and humidity levels. Let's now examine guard cells, which regulate stomatal openings. These specialized cells have a distinctive curved shape that enables them to control the size of the stomatal pore. When guard cells absorb water, they become swollen and firm. This change in shape creates an opening between them for gas exchange during photosynthesis. During water shortages, guard cells release water and become less rigid, causing the stomata to close. This mechanism helps prevent excessive moisture loss from the plant. The ability of guard cells to change shape comes from their unique structure. They feature thinner walls on their outer sides and thicker walls on their inner surfaces, which influences how they deform when their water content changes. In conclusion, plants have evolved remarkable transport mechanisms for moving water, minerals, and nutrients to where they're needed.